timachek os achas min hatachton lomad min ha'elyon. An ordinary document is rendered valid by its having at least 2 witnesses, and a tied document is rendered valid by its having at least 3 witnesses. With regard to an ordinary document in which a single witness wrote his signature and a tied document in which only 2 witnesses wrote their signatures, they are both not valid. If it is written in a document that someone owes 100 dinars, which are 20 sela, which is internally inconsistent since there are 25 sela and 100 dinars, the holder of the document has the right to claim only 20 sela, the lower of the 2 amounts. If it's written that he owes 100 dinars, which are 30 sela, the holder of the document has the right to claim only 100 dinars, again the lower of the 2 amounts. If it's written that someone owes silver dinars that are, in the remainder of the text where the number of dinars should be specified was erased, the amount must be no less than 2 dinars, the lowest amount to which the plural word dinars can be referring. That is what the creditor could claim. Similarly, if it's written silver sela that are, and the remainder of the text was erased, the amount must be no less than 2 sela. And if it's written darics that are, and the remainder of the text was erased, the amount must be no less than 2 darics. If it's written in the document above, in an earlier place in the document, that someone owes 100 dinars, and below, toward the end of the document, it's written that the amount owed is 200 dinars, or if above it's written 200 dinars and below 100 dinars, everything follows the bottom amount. If so, why does one write the information in the upper part of the document at all? It's a safety measure so that if one letter is erased from the lower part of the document, thereby rendering it illegible, the information can be learned from the upper part of the document. Kosvin get leish afal pi she'ein ishto imo, v'hashover leisha afal pi she'ein bala ima, uvilvad she'hei makiran v'habal nosein schar, kosvin shtar lelove, afal pi she'ein malve imo, vein kosvin lemalve, ad she'hei love, imo v'halove nosein schar, kosvin shtar lemocher, afal pi she'ein lokeach imo, vein kosvin lelokeach ad she'hei mocher imo, v'halokeach nosein schar. A scribe may write a bill of divorce for a man who requests one, even if his wife is not with him to give her consent when he presents his request, as there is no possibility that he will misuse the document. And a scribe may write a receipt for a woman upon her request, attesting to the payment of her marriage contract, even if her husband is not with her to give his consent. This is true provided that the scribe recognizes the parties requesting the document to prevent misrepresentation. And for both documents, the husband gives the scribe his wages. A scribe may write a promissory note for a debtor who requests one, even if the creditor is not with him when he requests the document, but a scribe may not write a promissory note for a creditor who requests it unless the debtor is with him and consents. And it is the debtor who gives the scribe his wages. A scribe may write a bill of sale for a seller of a field who requests one, even if the purchaser is not with him when he presents his request, but a scribe may not write a bill of sale for a purchaser who requests it unless the seller is with him and consents. And it's the purchaser who gives the scribe his wages. In kosvin shtare erusin b'nesuin el amidas shneihim v'hechasan nosen schar. In kosvin shtare arisus v'kablanus el amidas shneihim v'ham kabel nosen schar. In kosvin shtare v'rurin v'chol maisa beis din el amidas shneihim u'shneihim nosen schar. Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel omer shneihim kosvin shnaim lazeh la'atzmo v'lazeh la'atzmo. A scribe may not write documents of betrothal and documents of marriage except with the consent of both parties, the groom and the bride, and it's the groom who gives the scribe his wages. A scribe may not write contracts for sharecroppers and contractors except with the consent of both parties, i.e. the sharecropper or contractor and the one who hires him. And it's the sharecropper or contractor who gives the scribe his wages. A scribe may not write documents testifying to arbitration agreements or any other court enactments except with consent of both parties to the litigation, and both parties give the scribe his wages. Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel says the scribe writes 2 documents for the 2 parties, one for this one by himself and one for that one by himself. Mishipara mixas chovo v'hishlish es shtaro v'amar lo im lo nasati lecha mikan v'ad yom ploni ten lo shtaro higiyazman below nasan Reb Yosef Omer yitain Reb Yehuda Omer lo yitain. In the case of a debtor who repaid part of his debt and with the agreement to the creditor deposited the promissory note with the third party, serving as a trustee to ensure the creditor would not collect the full amount, and the debtor said to the trustee, "If I have not given you a balance from now until such and such a day, give the creditor his promissory note, thereby enabling him to collect the full amount stated on the note. If the stipulated time arrived and the debtor did not give the balance to the trustee, Reb Yosef says the trustee should give the promissory note to the creditor in accordance with the debtor's stipulation. Reb Yehuda says a trustee should not give it as the stipulation is void. Misha nimchak shtar chovo meidin alav edim uva lifnei beisten v'osin lo kiyum esh ploni ben ploni nimchak shtaro biyom ploni uploni edav Misha para mikzas chovo Reb Yehuda Omer yachalif Reb Yosei Omer yichtov shover Amar Reb Yehuda nimsa zet zarech lichos shomer shovro min ha'achbarim Amar lo Reb Yossi kach yafe lo velo yura kocho shel zeh. In the case of a creditor whose promissory note has become erased, he should produce witnesses who remember the details of the document to testify about it, and they come before the court and they ratify the promissory note for him, stating the promissory note of so-and-so was erased, and it stated that a loan for such and such an amount took place on such and such a date, and so-and-so and so-and-so were its witnesses. The ratification document is signed, and it may be used as a replacement for the erased document. In the case of a debtor who repaid part of his debt, Rabbi Yehuda says the creditor should exchange the promissory note for a new one, stating the current balance, and tear up the first promissory note. Rabbi Yossi says the creditor may keep the original promissory note, and he should write a receipt for the payment he has received and give it to the debtor as part of proof of his partial payment of the sum recorded in the old note. Rabbi Yehuda said with regard to this arrangement, it's found that this debtor must now guard his receipt against being destroyed by mice, as if he no longer has the receipt, he will have to pay the entire sum recorded in the promissory note. Rabbi Yossi said to him, this situation is fitting for him. It's better that this procedure be followed and the strength of the claim of this creditor not be weakened. Shnei achin, echad ani ve'echad ashir, v'hiniach lechen avihen mirchatz, ubeis habad, asan l'schar haschar, le'emsa, asan la'atzman, hare ha'ashir omer, la'ani, kach lecha avadim, v'yirchatzu, v'merchatz, kach lecha zeisim uvo, V'aseim b'beis Chabad shnayim shehayu be'ir achas shem echad Yosef ben Shimon v'shem acher Yosef ben Shimon ein yacholin lachotzi shtar chov zeh al zeh v'lo acher yachol lachotzi aleihin shtar chov nimsa le'echad ben shtarosav shtaro shel Yosef ben Shimon parua shtaro shneihem paruin ketzad yasu Yishal Leshu ve'im hayu mishul lashim yichtavu simen ve'im hayu misumanin yichtavu kohen haomer livno shtar ben shtarosai parua ve'eni yodea ezehu shtaros kulan paruhin nimsa le'echad sham shnayim hagadol parua v'hakatan eno parua v'hamalve es chavero al yedei arev lo yipara min He'arev vim amar al manas she'apara mimi she'ertzei yipara min ha'arev Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel omer vim yesh nechasim lelove ben kach lo yipara min ha'arev v'chen haya Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel omer he'arev le'isha bich subasa v'haya bala magarsha Yidi Reina Hana Shema Yasu Kanunya al Nechasim Shalzeh Yachzir es Ishto. In a case where there are two brothers, one poor and one rich, and their father left them a bathhouse or an olive press as an inheritance, that the father had built these facilities for profit, i.e. to charge others for using them, the profit that accrues after the father's death is shared equally by the two brothers. If the father had built them for himself and for the members of his household to use, the poor brother who has little use for these amenities cannot force the rich brother to convert the facilities to commercial use. Rather, the rich brother can say to the poor brother, go take servants for yourself and they will bathe in the bathhouse. Or he can say, go take olives for yourself and come and make them into oil in the olive press. If there are two people who are living in one city, one named Yosef ben Shimon and the other also named Yosef ben Shimon, one cannot present a promissory note against the other, as the purported debtor can claim, on the contrary, it's you who owed me money, you repaid me, and I returned the note to you upon payment. Nor can another third person present a promissory note against either of them, as each one can claim, it's not I, but the other Yosef ben Shimon who owes you money. If a document is found among one's documents stating the promissory note against Yosef ben Shimon is repaid, and both men named Yosef ben Shimon owed this man money, the promissory notes of both of them are considered repaid, as it cannot be determined which debt was repaid and which is outstanding. What should two people do with the same name in a single city do in order to conduct their business? They should triple their names by writing 3 generations, Yosef ben Shimon ben so-and-so. And if they have identical triple names, i.e. not only their fathers but their grandfathers have identical names, they should write an indication as to which one is referred to, such as the short Yosef ben Shimon or the dark Yosef ben Shimon. And if they have identical indications, they should write Yosef ben Shimon the priest, if one of them is a priest. In the case of one who says to his son before dying, one promissory note among the promissory notes in my possession is repaid, but I do not know which one, the promissory notes of all of those who owe him money are considered repaid, i.e. they are not valid for collection, as it cannot be determined which debt was repaid and which are outstanding. If there were found among his papers 2 promissory notes owed by one person, the one for the greater amount is considered repaid, and the one for the smaller amount is not considered repaid and can be collected, the debtor is favored in the case of an uncertainty. One who lends money to another with the assurance of a guarantor cannot collect the debt from the guarantor, but if the creditor said to the debtor, I'm lending the money on the condition that I will collect the debt from whomever I wish, i.e. either the debtor or the guarantor, he can collect the debt from the guarantor. Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel says, if the debtor has property of his own, then whether in this case where the creditor stipulated this condition or that case where he did not, he cannot collect the debt from the guarantor. And so Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel would say, if there's a guarantor for a woman for her marriage contract, from whom the woman can collect payment of her marriage contract instead of collecting it from the husband, and her husband was divorcing her, the husband must take a vow prohibiting himself from deriving any benefit from her so that he can never remarry her. This precaution is taken lest the couple collude kenunya to divorce in order to collect payment of the marriage contract from this guarantor's property, and then the husband will remarry the wife. Hamalva es chaveiro bishtar gova min chasim mishubadim al yedei edim gove min chasim b'nei chorin hotzi alav kasav yado shehu chayev lo gove min chasim b'nei chorin arev hayotzi la'acher chatum shtaros gove min chasim b'nei chorin maiseba lifnei Rabbi Yishmael omer va'amer gove min chasim b'nei chorin Amar lo ben nanas eno gove lo ben chasim mishubadim below ben chasim b'nei chorin amar lo lama amar lo hare hachonek es echad b'shuk umsao chaviro v'amar lo hanach lo pater shelo al emunaso hilvahu ela ezehu arev shehu chayev halvehu v'ani nosen lecha chayev sheken al emunaso hilvahu amar Rabbi Yishmael harotze Sheyachkim Yasok B'dinei Mamonos She'en Lecha Mikzoa B'Torah Gadol Mehen Shehen Kamayan B'Hanoveya Harotze Sheyasok B'dinei Mamonos Yishamesh Es Shimon Ben Nanas. One who lends money to another by means of a promissory note can collect the debt from liened property that has been sold to others by the debtor after the loan was granted. One who lends money by means of witnesses without recording the loan in a promissory note can collect the debt only from unsold property. If one presents to a debtor a document in the handwriting of the debtor stating that he owns money to him, but without witnesses signed on the document, the creditor can collect only from unsold property. In the case of a guarantor whose commitment emerged after the signing of the promissory note, the creditor can collect the sum only from unsold property of the guarantor. The Mishna relates an incident occurred where such a case came before Rabbi Yishmael, and he said the creditor can collect the sum from unsold property of the guarantor, but not from liened property that he has sold to others. Ben Nana said to Rabbi Yishmael, the creditor could collect the sum from the guarantor at all, cannot collect the sum from the guarantor at all, not from liened property that's been sold, nor from unsold property. Rabbi Yishmael said to him, why not? Ben Nana said to him, if one was strangling someone in the marketplace demanding repayment of a loan, and another person found him doing so and said to the attacker, leave him alone and I'll give you the money he owes, the person who intervened is exempt from paying, as the creditor did not loan the money in the first place based on his trust of the one who intervened. Rather, who is a guarantor who is obligated to repay the loan he has guaranteed? One who tells the creditor before the loan takes place, lend money to him and I will give you the repayment, as in that case the creditor did loan the money based on his trust of the guarantor. And Rabbi Shmuel thereupon said, one who wants to become wise should engage in the study of monetary law, as there is no greater discipline in the Torah and is like a flowing spring. And he added, one who wants to engage in the study of monetary law should attend to, i.e. become a disciple of Shimon ben Nanas. Thus concludes the Mishnah in Bava Basra.